Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Dennis Brown, and thank you for joining me on my Monday Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today, I'm going to tell you a quick startup story, a story about my freight brokerage journey during startup. It's an interesting short story, and it involves the concept of luck. And so the title of this is, again, the title of this training or this story is how I got lucky to build an $80 million a year freight brokerage, right? I know that kind of sounds weird, but I'll explain. I'm going to dive in here in a minute. But before we do, hit me up in the comments and let me know the city and state you're logging in from. I'll give you some shout outs. Once we get some people live here, we'll jump into the story. And there's some important lessons there that I think you can extract and extrapolate from this story. And that's the reason why I'm telling you. I mean, it's not story time. We're not going to gather around and I'm going to tell you a bedtime story, but this story has some important nuggets that you can take with you. And they were nuggets that I took with me and have since leveraged as a way to navigate as an entrepreneur, navigate in this crazy world as an entrepreneur. So, all right, so where are we at here? Let's see. Cynthia from Maryland, welcome. Jim from Minnesota, welcome. Carl Gills from Bethlehem, Georgia. The Red Bow from Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome, welcome. Kim F. from North Carolina. Welcome. Betty Jones from Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome, Betty. Paul from Ohio. Andrew from Indianapolis, Indiana. Perfect. So we got people coming in from all over the place. I want to thank you for being here. Again, here's going to be the agenda. I'm going to tell that story and share some lessons with you at the beginning. Then we're not going to have time for a giveaway this week, but we will have time for a live Q&A. So if you stick around to the end, I will do live Q&A. That means you'll be able to type your questions in the chat box at that time, and I will do my absolute best to try to answer those questions and help point you in the right direction, okay? So let me just check. My lighting seems a little bit off here, so I apologize, but I just want to double check this. Oh, that's too dark. That's too light. There we are. All right, sorry about that. All right, so what else we got? Joe Mometi from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. William Manzir from Minsk, Belarus. Michael from Omaha, Nebraska. Corey from Billings, Montana. Jarrell from Cleveland. Awesome. All right, guys, listen, thank you so much for being here. Again, we're going to let a few more people get live. Today, I'm going to tell you a story of how luck played a role in me building an $80 million a year freight brokerage, right? I'm going to talk to you about how luck, right? So again, how I got lucky to build an $80 million a year freight brokerage, all right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to grab a quick drink, shut your phone off, shut your door, try to get rid of distractions so you can pay attention. And again, we're going to do the story and some lessons, and then we're going to dive into Q&A at the end. Hold your questions to the end. Don't type them in the chat box now or during the story, because otherwise I won't get to them. Okay. They're going to fall somewhere in the feed and I'm going to miss them. All right. So hold tight. All right. Carl Gills, congratulations and welcome. He enrolled in Freight Broker Bootcamp. Again, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dennis Brown. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, going on 30 years now. It's crazy. Over 25 years. And started a freight brokerage back in 2003, grew that freight brokerage to over $80 million a year and sold it. I'm also the owner of freightbrokerbootcamp.com, which is the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker and freight agent training program. You can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee, so there's zero risk for enrolling. And I want to thank everybody for joining me. I'm sure there's a lot of students in here. I'm sure there is a lot of people that are considering joining. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are already operating their freight brokerage. So thank you everybody for joining me, and we're going to dive in. Okay. So I got some notes here because again, this happened a long time ago. This is 20 years ago. Okay. Close to 20 years ago. So here's the, let me just kind of frame it for you really quick. All right. So how I got lucky to grow an $80 million a year freight brokerage. All right. So you heard the word luck. And so it's important. I want to frame this really quick because luck does play a role. Luck did play a role, but I want to share with you a quick story. Um, it's an interesting story. And I remember I was probably 2 or 3 years into my freight brokerage. I mean, we did 1 million our first year, then we did 3 million, then we did 6 million. I think we were in our third year of freight brokerage. And a friend of mine had been talking to a mutual friend of ours. And the mutual friend had said, yeah, Dennis just got lucky with LDI. You know, it was perfect timing and luck is all. So he said something very negative. And at first, I was pretty pissed. Matter of fact, I mean, if he was there, I might have given him a right cross. But here's the thing, right? And not only was I upset, but it hurt a little bit because he was a friend of mine. And so I'm thinking to myself, who is he to judge me and to say that? Who is he? He doesn't know the effort that I put in. He doesn't know the sacrifice. He doesn't know the rejection or the doors that got slammed in my face. He doesn't know that. He wasn't there. He didn't see it. So then I realized something and I thought about it. Why would he say something like this? I mean, he was my friend. Why would he say something? So I realized, it wasn't because he didn't like me. It was because he was trying to justify his own failures. And so it wasn't, he was trying to justify the fact that it wasn't his fault that he failed. It was just bad luck. Okay. So he wasn't taking ownership of, his failures. And so it wasn't the fact that he failed, it was that luck failed on him. And so he was projecting that in the conversation with my friend and projecting it onto me because, again, it's hard to look in the mirror. And all of a sudden it made sense. And be honest with you, I felt sorry for him. And he was a really nice guy. And so I didn't understand why he would say that. But after thinking about it a little bit, I realized. And so the fact is, luck does play a role in almost everything. I mean, the fact is, you could walk out the door today. I could walk out the door after this live and get struck by lightning. I mean, obviously that would be bad luck, but luck affects positive and negatively. And so what I like, when you think about the word luck, I like the definition that my old wrestling coach from college gave for luck. And he said, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Now, you may have heard that before. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So in 2003, when I launched my freight brokerage, I was already prepared. Now, I didn't have any experience as a freight broker or a freight agent or a truck driver, and I didn't even know anybody that did that job. Okay. But number one, I had developed important skills to start and launch a successful business. No, again, I had never been a broker, never been a driver, but I had developed some of the skills that are important to starting any successful business. Number two, I had developed an incredible work ethic and I had developed a mental toughness since the age of 7 when I started wrestling competitively. I wrestled all through elementary school, middle school, high school, and eventually I wrestled at a D1 college, the University of Buffalo. I wrestled through college. And so I had developed that mental toughness, right? I had developed that work ethic. So that was number 2 of my preparation. Number 3, I had developed a winning mindset, right? Not only from sports, but of course that played a big role. But in my early 20s, I started pursuing personal development. And so personal development in the form of books and audiobooks and training and exposing myself to the concepts of personal development. So that was number 3 in my preparation. Number 4, I had developed a network of people that could help me launch a successful freight brokerage. The fact of the matter is, one of the investors in my freight brokerage I met during college, right? So I had developed a network of people that could help me launch the freight brokerage. Number 5, I had experienced adversity and failure throughout my early career, high school, college, and even a little after college. And I knew how to handle it and not let it cripple me like it does so many new entrepreneurs. Okay. So in 2003, when the opportunity presented itself to start a freight brokerage, I was prepared. You see, I had done that preparation throughout my whole life. I had been preparing for that opportunity. And so I guess it is luck in some ways, right? So, what I want you to remember and lean in and listen carefully, right? Luck is when opportunity and preparation collide. That's luck. And so, if you're sitting on the fence and not taking action on your dream to become a freight broker or a freight agent, you know, what I want you to understand is this: it's important that you don't let anybody talk you out of your dream. Now, I can help prepare you to be a successful freight broker or freight agent, but I can't do it for you. And if you want me to help you prepare, the best way to do that, to start a freight brokerage or freight agency, is to check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. That's how I can contribute and help prepare you for the opportunity. Now, that program has trained over 10,000 students. Again, I've had that program for well over a decade. It's the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker training program available. And we offer a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. It's zero risk, okay? Zero risk to you. So you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, I hope you enjoyed this story. Click the like button, comment below, and let me know how you felt about this. Has there ever been a situation like this in your life where, you know, you were able to extract something important from something that happened to you personally, right? So listen, thank you so much for joining me. Truly appreciate you being here. If you're curious about becoming a freight broker, freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com, and I'll see you on the inside. All right, so that story, it's a real story. It's a true story. It's 100% true. And I don't know what made me think of it. Not long ago, I think I was driving and the story somehow came to my mind, and I jotted it down in my phone. I put it in the notes on my phone. And when I was going through topics to share on this week's live, you know, I thought about it, and I thought it was important because, again, luck plays a role in everything. Okay. Good luck, bad luck. I mean, luck there's an impact, luck, timing, things like that do play a role. But what I want you to understand is you have to, in business, right? Particularly in business, I'm going to translate it to that. If you want to get lucky and build a successful freight brokerage or freight agency doing 7 or 8 or 9 figures, okay? A big business, a highly profitable business, yeah, there's going to be some luck. But guess what? There's also going to be a lot of preparation beforehand. There's also going to be a lot of things you're going to do in the meantime. So again, luck is when preparation and opportunity collide. Okay. So I want you to remember that. I want you to think about that. Okay. And next time you tell somebody, yeah, you got lucky, or someone says it to you, let that resonate. Remember this story. And hopefully by then you've built a successful 6, 7, or 8 figure freight brokerage. So appreciate you guys hanging with me on that. I know it's a little bit different training or different concept this week. You know, I'm not telling you how to cold call. I'm not telling you, but it's important, right? That preparation, those things that I did to prepare in advance. I didn't know anything about a freight brokerage. When I was wrestling in high school, I didn't even know what a freight brokerage was. When I was in college wrestling, I didn't even know I was going to be an entrepreneur at that point. When I launched my first business and it failed miserably, I didn't know the importance and the things and the skills and the things, the character that was building that would eventually allow me to succeed as a freight broker. And I was very blessed, right? So I don't mind saying that luck did play a role, but without the preparation, all the luck in the world isn't going to do you any good. Okay. So, all right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Cool. All right. So let's do this. I'm not going to do a giveaway. That was relatively short, which is good. I'm not going to do a giveaway, but I am going to do live Q&A, but I do have to cut out a little early. Okay. So let's jump into Q&A. Feel free to ask any questions you have, whether it be about this story, the lessons from it, freight broker startup, anything that you want to talk about related to freight brokerage or freight agency or entrepreneurs or sales or marketing or whatever you want to talk about. Hit me up in the comments with those questions, and I will do my absolute best to try to answer them for you. Again, I will not get to everybody's question. I rarely do because there's always way more questions than there are time, but I'll try to come back in later. If you're one of the early questions, you're more likely to get those questions answered. If you stick it in there late, 5 or 10 minutes from now, might not get answered, okay? And Ula Mazir, as always, has a question. Thank you. If a CEO is responsible for logistics as well, is there a point for me to develop relationships with someone else from that company? Okay, let me reread that. Hi, Dennis. If a CEO is responsible for logistics as well, is there a point for me to develop relationships with someone else from the company? Okay, so one of the great parts about freight brokerage and owning a freight brokerage is that unlike some products and services, you do not need to get approval from the CEO or the CFO or even the vice president, okay, of finance or operations or whatever. You do not need a C level or VP level authorization to get approved as a vendor and to start getting business. There's some products that are like that where you need C-suite approval. Brokerage is not. There are basically low to mid-level managers, shipping managers, directors of logistics that can approve new vendors and can provide business, can provide opportunities to new vendors, to brokers. So the good thing is you don't need to go at the C-level suite. But I can tell you, and I don't know if this is exactly answering your question because I'm a little I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for, but yes, as a broker, once you establish your relationship with a shipper, if that's a shipping manager or a director of logistics or a load planner, whoever that relationship is, you're going to want to develop multiple relationships within that organization. Okay. Is my thing going out of focus? No. Okay. You're going to want to develop multiple relationships at different layers of that organization. So at, kind of the operational level, and then maybe at more the manager level, and then maybe more at the VP, director, or even the C-suite level. The more relationships you have, quality relationships you have, the more likely you will be able to retain that client long term. Because, for example, if the shipping manager gets fired or goes and works for another company and they need to replace that person, and you don't have multiple relationships within that organization, then you could potentially lose that business or it could impact your volume. But if you have multiple relationships within that organization, this is a retention strategy. If you have multiple relationships, at least 3 within the organization, then the probability is you're going to have an opportunity if one leaves to reach out and try to smooth that transition into that new person. So I'm not sure if that was your question, but yes, developing multiple relationships. But I will tell you that for your sales outreach as a broker, you do not want to be reaching out to the CEO, okay? Because he doesn't control logistics. He doesn't manage logistics. That's not what he does. The CEO hires upper level and mid-level and low-level managers to handle that on a day-to-day basis. So you're not going to see a CEO managing logistics or approving vendors for logistics. The best case scenario, if you know the CEO of a business, he's going to refer you down, which is a good thing. But ultimately, you're still going to have to build that relationship with that low to mid-level manager. So I hope that helps. If that was your question, I hope it helped. If it wasn't, then you can type another question and we'll try to clarify. Okay, John Heller says, establishing credit with factoring companies as a new broker. Okay, so I guess this depends upon whether you are financing your own receivables and you're using your own cash or cash flow to pay carriers, or whether you're using a factoring company, okay? But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a gift, okay? Let me find it. I'm going to give you a gift that I think you're really going to enjoy. Hold on a minute. Okay, so my friend Tom Krautow from Opperfy, Crotel from Opperfy, has made a special offer to anybody that's in my Freight Broker Bootcamp community. If you want to learn how to build your credit as a broker, he sells a course that he normally charges $250 for. But if you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit, it's free. It'll cost you $0. I have went through the course. It's very, very good. It's very, very detailed. It will absolutely positively help you to build your credit, and it's absolutely free. Okay. So you can sign up for that. It's absolutely free. It's how to build your credit. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit. Again, that's with Tom from Opperfy and his team over at Opperfy. They are a factoring company that specialize in startups and small freight brokers, which there are very few of. Matter of fact, he's the only one I know in the industry that specializes in that. So you can get that course. But if you're looking for factoring, if you've already got your Freight Broker Authority, right, and you're already operational and you're looking for factoring, you need some help factoring, and you've gotten turned down by other companies like Denim and some of the others that used to take new brokers but don't anymore, you can also submit a request at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/cashflow. He will get, if you send it through there, he's going to know that you're from my company. They'll reach out to you. They'll give you all the information that you need about factoring services. And again, it's absolutely free to get the information. Tom's got a wealth of experience and knowledge. He's building a great business. I've spoken to some of his customers. His customers are very, very happy, who are mainly brokers, obviously. And so I hope that helps. I hope that gift, I hope you enjoy that free gift. And it's very relevant to, it'll walk you step by step how to do that. Okay. So he does a better job on how to build credit than I did, that I could do. Okay. So definitely check that out. JB asks, can anyone become a broker or agent regardless of background? Yes. Yeah, I didn't have any background in logistics, trucking, transportation, shipping, none of it. I had no background in it. Yeah, I've had students who were truck drivers who built successful freight brokerages. I've had students who were stay-at-home moms who developed successful freight brokerages. I've had students who don't speak English as their first language who have developed and launched successful freight brokerages. Male, female, old, young, the whole gambit. So yeah, your background doesn't necessarily impact. Now, there are some people who have a more business-oriented background who have a little bit of an advantage, but you are not, you do not have to have a college degree. You do not need to pass an exam. I mean, if you want to be a real estate agent or you want to be a life insurance or an insurance agent, you got to pass an exam, and they're not an easy exam. You got to pass those exams. As a freight brokerage, there is no exam. Okay. So no, you just need you need to know how to file for your Freight Broker Authority. You need to get trained on the fundamentals of how a freight brokerage works. And that's everything we do at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. So good question, JB. Thanks for asking. Kim, thank you for the kind words. Opperfy appreciates it. Yes, I think those guys are great too. Carl Gills says, how does an agent procure a shipper before actually being onboarded with a brokerage? What type of dialogue do you have with a potential shipper? Well, you're not going to get a shipper. Typically, you're not going to get a shipper unless you have a pre-existing relationship with that shipper as an agent, before you become a broker or before you partner with a broker. Because again, just so you guys know, a freight broker has a freight broker license. A freight agent operates under that freight brokerage as an independent contractor in a partnership on a straight commission basis. Typically, they get 50 to 70% of the profit on any given load. So if you're not an agent, okay, then it's going to be very hard for you to get shippers unless you have relationships with people that control freight. Okay. So your real question probably is, well, I can't get hired as an agent unless I have shippers. And that's totally not true. Okay. There are hundreds of companies out there that are willing to hire you as an agent without any experience or a book of business. But they're not the big companies that you see advertised all over LinkedIn or all over Indeed or all over the internet. These are smaller to medium-sized companies. So here's what I would suggest. here's what I would suggest. If you are looking to get hired as a freight broker, as a freight agent, and you don't have a customer base, give me a second. I want to direct you to something. Okay. If you want to become a freight agent and you don't have a customer base and you don't have a lot of experience, but you've been trained through Freight Broker Bootcamp, you can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/jobs. Now, there are some companies on there that are hiring agents that require a book of business, but there are also some companies on there that do not require a book of business. Now, I do not know all of these companies personally, but I created this job board as a resource for my students or anybody online to be able to find jobs and to be able to get hired as an agent, regardless of your experience level or the number of customers you have. So I hope that helps. If not, again, hit me back and clarify the question. Okay, Dennis, I've heard of companies paying a director of operations monthly mortgage to keep sending freight over. Highly suspect from an ethical standpoint, don't you think? Yes, 100%. You cannot pay an employee of one of your customers. Matter of fact, you cannot pay them. It's a bribe. Okay. Now, matter of fact, it's illegal to bribe an employee to get benefit financially on your own. In some states, it's illegal. It's a felony. Some states a misdemeanor, some states a felony. Okay. So you definitely do not want to be paying somebody inside the company to direct business to you because it's illegal. Look it up online. Okay. But there are ways you can help. You can foster the relationship. You can have lunch with them. You can have dinner with them. If they are small, low dollar value ways to show appreciation, then it's okay. But you cannot compensate them directly. I mean, you can't pay them, $10 a load or $100 a load. It's totally illegal. Now, if you are paying a referral, someone gave you a referral, they do not work for the company, but they work for another. Say you have a customer that you're doing great business with, and they know another shipper, and they refer you into another shipper. You could pay this guy a referral fee for every load for referring you into that other customer, but you can't pay that customer for his freight. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely suspect ethically, and it's definitely illegal in many cases. Okay. So good question, Jim. Okay. So JB says, what is the best way to start with a full-time job over the road? So apparently you're probably a driver, and your question is, how can I start my freight brokerage or freight agency part-time? Okay. And while you're still operating, having a job. Well, as a truck driver, I don't know your schedule, but you have some control over your schedule. And so the thing about freight brokerage is this, and this is what I tell people. You can start it part-time or freight agency. You can start it part-time, but you can't start it in your spare time. Meaning, I'm going to work an hour today, and then on Thursday I'll work a half hour, and then on Friday I'll work 3 hours. A part-time, a spare time effort is not going to generate any business, and the probability of you failing is 99% plus. Okay. But if you can define a schedule part-time where you're consistently daily working on your business, an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, part-time, that will allow you to learn the ropes. It will allow you to develop relationships with carriers. It will allow you to develop relationships with shippers. It will allow you to move a certain amount of loads and start generating a certain amount of profit so that you have the comfort level and the confidence to migrate away from your full-time job. And maybe you even have the cash flow. So the key is, as a freight broker, freight agent, you're going to need to be available during normal business hours, at least part-time. So typically sometime between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's when most freight moves, Monday through Friday. Now, there's freight that moves at night, and there's freight that moves on the weekends, but it's very hard to get in touch with anybody during those timeframes. The bulk of the people that control the freight are normal business hours, 8 to 4, 7 to 5. Okay, so those would those hours you'd want those to be. So if you're driving at night and then you've got some time during the day, at least a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours during a day to do the things you need to do, like prospect and get new shippers. The great thing about being a driver is that you're on a lot of docks. So you're meeting a lot of people, right? I mean, you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 loads a week. Okay. And so you're on and off loading and unloading on a lot of docks. So you're meeting a lot of people in the freight industry. So that gives you a whole bunch of potential warm leads that you may be able to reach out to after or down the road. So I hope that helps. Thank you, Kim. Yes, please hit the like button. Appreciate it. Hope you guys are enjoying this. I agree, Betty. Once you start getting a little bit of cash flow, absolutely. Yep. Elite Fleet says, do you know a lot about ocean and air freight as well? Some of my customers have that freight as well, and I'd hate to turn it down for a lack of knowledge. We do in Freight Broker Bootcamp, we talk very, very little about air and ocean freight. Okay. It's very, very specialized. Okay. So we teach freight brokerage. The majority of freight brokerage is full truckload over the road freight brokerage. So that's where we spend the most time. We touch on LTL, we touch on partials, but we do not talk about, we do not talk extensively about rail. We do not talk extensively about air or ocean. Those are very specialized. Now, the good thing is that the concepts associated with brokering truckload freight are very similar to the concepts of brokering rail or air or ocean freight. Now, the nuances of each one of those modes of transportation are different, okay? And there's definitely the devil's in the detail, but we do not jump into a lot of ocean and air. So here's the thing you have to understand is that if you're going to specialize, the number one tip that I tell freight brokers is you have to get trained. The number 2 tip is you have to identify a freight niche. You have to find your niche. Now, if your niche is going to be air and ocean freight, then my training is probably not where you want to be. But if your niche is going to be the steel industry or the produce industry or Northeast outbound van freight or Midwest flatbed freight, right? Those are things I can really help you with. Now, over time, as you establish yourself in the truckload mode, you can always learn and take some of the things you've learned in truckload and you can parallel those into other modes and other niches. So maybe you want to move into air freight or expedited or rail. But those are very nuanced, right? Those would be extremely difficult to teach, right? And not only that, as a broker, you can't even move air or ocean freight direct, okay? Meaning you're not licensed. You'd need to be a freight forwarder, right? Or an NVOCC in order to do that. So, there's some nuances associated with those modes, but I think it would be something you would learn over time, but it's not something you want to bite off with your first bite. Okay. So I hope that helps. Josh Smith says, how do you overcome not adding brokers, only asset carriers? For example, the shipper said to follow up next quarter. We waited respectfully for follow-up and then told no brokers. This happens. Okay. So I'm going to share with you, and you guys are so lucky that I've had these questions all before, and I know how to, and I can share with you all the resources. Okay. So, all right, guys, here you go. If you want a training and a framework of exactly how I overcame that objection of we don't do business with brokers, okay? Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/no brokers. Absolutely free. Costs you $0 to get that. I show you the entire framework of how I overcome that objection, right? How I handled it and how I converted that objection into millions of dollars in business over the course of my owning my freight brokerage, and how you can do the same thing. Okay. So rather than me sitting up here and training on it, I'm going to give you the exact resource, which includes the download, a video, the whole 9 yards. Okay. So that's where you guys want to go for that. freightbrokerbootcamp.com/no brokers. Okay. All right, cool. So, any final questions before I go? I appreciate you guys letting me get out of here early. I am going to be taking off. I got some appointments and some things I have to do this afternoon. As a matter of fact, I have to go meet with my accountant. And then I've got a bunch of other things I got to do. So, without further ado, if you guys have no other questions, do me a huge favor before you go. Hit me up in the comments and let me know 1 to 10. 1 meaning, Dennis, this was a complete and utter waste of my time. 10 meaning, Dennis, I loved it. You hit it out of the park. Anywhere in between. If it's anything less than an 8, tell me what I can do to make it better. I want to try to improve this. Also, if you have ideas for future trainings, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. Truly appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day. I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you, Vehicle Transport Hub, for the kind words. Josh, thank you. Michael, thank you. Again, I'm looking for honest feedback, okay? If it's a 7, if it's a 4, if it's a 2, let me know. But if it's anything less than 8, just tell me how I can improve it. I'm all for constructive feedback, okay? I have absolutely, positively no ego when it comes to that. If you can give me some real constructive feedback, I will definitely do my best to try to apply it in future trainings, okay? All right, so it looks like people are pretty happy. 9.99, yes. I stuck the landing, didn't I? I must have stuck the landing. Perfect. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. I hope you guys have an awesome day. I hope you guys have an awesome week. I hope that you were able to extract something from that short story I told you. I hope you remember my definition of luck. Luck is when opportunity and preparation collide. Okay, so remember that. All right, have an awesome day. We'll talk to you guys next week. Make sure you mark your calendars. Make sure you put a reminder in your phone. Set an alarm for next Monday at noon Eastern for the next Freight Burger Bootcamp Live, and we'll talk to you soon.